Perfect.
Perfect. So, Adrian, finally, I have the pleasure to meet you for iPhone Dev Swiss.ch, and this is an interview using iChat as a fanboy Mac have to do. So I start to ask you, what do you think about this new product, the iPad, that run the same OS of iPhone?
Well, I I think it's really a new concept, so it's very difficult to say that it's like a portable computer or just a new kind of netbook or something like that. So the problem with the classification of the iPad is huge in the minds of a lot of people, and I think that Apple does a very good job in separating, the iPad from the rest of the devices that you could buy, So the iPad, it stands on itself. It has its own limitations, its own capabilities, and its own advantages. I personally fell in love with mine, so I'm just going to prove. So this is my iPad with all the applications and everything, and of course it turns around and it's absolutely beautiful, and I've already read a couple of books with it, and I don't know, it's really different experience, it feels different in your hand. It has very good applications. What you find in the App Store is really high quality software in general, and the whole thing feels differently. You're using your finger all the time, so this is really a 21st century device. It really feels like, okay, finally we are getting into science fiction stuff, the same kind of devices that you would see in Star Trek. Okay, finally we got into the moment of history where Star Trek begins to be a reality. Okay, so we have the communicator of Star Trek called the iPhone, of course, that's been available for a couple of years now. Now we have the tablet used by the crew of the Starfleet Enterprise to coordinate stuff with other people, and this is called the iPad. So we are getting into really, science fiction stuff right now. So I think it's really important to see that this is not a computer. This is not your typical day-to-day netbook. This is something else. And in that sense, it's absolutely lovable. I mean, it's light. Personally, a lot of people think it's much heavier than expected. I didn't really notice I didn't have any idea of how heavy it could be, but it's much less than my MacBook, so for me it's enough. You can read books very well with it. There's plenty of applications, and of course, being a developer, you can put your own stuff in it. So,
yeah,
what's not to love about it?
Okay, perfect. What about the development on iPad? The iPad is the future, and is everything that we can really imagine for the homework or maybe for the business. What do you think about the future of the development about business or just to do homework for students? For another example, let me guess. Just both are can really need an iPad. For example, a businessman could use it, a student can use it, and a developer even can use it, I guess, for read books. What do you think about development with iPad and development on iPad?
Yesterday there was exactly the same question during the iPad Geek Night we did in Technopark in Zurich. And actually, well, there's a problem about development on the iPad, which is the restrictions on running compiled code on the iPad. So that's why you don't get plugins in iPhone OS applications, right? Because all the code that you load for security reasons from an application that you download from the App Store must be statically linked to the executable. So in that sense, what you could do with an iPad is, for example, use it as an editor. And I think that, for example, an application like Subeta Edit, done by the Coding Monkeys in Germany, which allows several developers to share the same code file, that could be a very good candidate for an iPad application. So using, instead of your MacBook, sharing the document and using it via Wi-Fi and typing on it directly on your iPad. I'm pretty sure someone will license the Subeta Edit engine and create an iPad application with it. I'm pretty sure about that. Now, in terms of developer capabilities and possibilities, the question is really broad. I think the education market is probably the first market where we will see a real breakthrough with the iPad. Okay, it's the first place where you will see something that will happen in the short term, if you want. I think business will have to wait a little bit. Normally, big businesses, particularly, are very much Microsoft focused. Some of them are migrating little by little to Macintosh networks and configurations, but this is taking some time, you know, so there's a lot of inertia in that sense. I think for small businesses, the iPad will be adopted immediately, okay? For example, to have, an application for doing mind maps or sharing information during a meeting or stuff like that, you know, that will be absolutely fantastic. For big businesses, I think we have to wait. And for education, I think the timeline is in a couple of days, more or less, you know?
Yes, yeah.
That's why, I mean, there's an Apple event next week in Bern, which I strongly recommend anyone involved in the Apple business to go. It's a free event under registration, so it's free, but you have to register to be able to attend. And that shows the fact that the education market is particularly big, particularly here in Switzerland, where there are so many schools with already Macintoshes and iPod Touches and so on. So I think that if you want, in the short term, education, medium term, small businesses, but even short term, and in the longer term, probably in 1 year or 1 year and a half, we'll see big businesses getting into the iPad. And then there's the press, and that is another chapter altogether. The printed press has now the Kindle, the iPad, some other tablets here and there appearing, and I think that that's another market, very important, because the readership in big newspapers is falling. Many statistics confirm this. So now it's time to look at the transmission of information through other means, and the moment is now. It's not tomorrow, it's right now. So again, these are, in my opinion, the segments, if you want, where the iPad will probably make a difference.
Yes, of course. And what about your application? Are you planning a porting in iPad like Senbei?
Absolutely. Well, the Senbei
can be a good application on iPad.
Exactly. There's Senbei. It's a good candidate. Actually, it's I have the code. I haven't committed anything, but I'm working on it right now. I have Notitas as well, which is particularly suited for the iPad because it's this big canvas where you can pin notes, and it's really cool.
I know. I have it installed on my phone, of course.
There we go. And well, even the simplest ones, even Device DNA or even Bluewalkie could be extended to take, to use the features of the iPad. So in that sense, I have a lot of projects, but very little time. So I will try to go as fast